There we go. Well, thanks a lot for coming, everybody. I turned the timer on so we can have a hard stop. I know Bill's got one as well. Before we get started, I want to introduce everybody. I'm obviously Andy Simpson. People know me. That if you're on here, you probably know who I am, or you wouldn't be watching this. But to my other side here, which I can't seem to do, is Joelle, and then we have Earl and Bill. Joelle, tell us a little bit about who you are.
My name is Joelle. I own a fast casual spot in Ottawa, Canada. It's called Wolf Down, and we do Berlin street food, notably the German doner.
Awesome. So I asked Joelle to be on here because I read some awesome articles that she wrote. I'm not sure how I found your article. They just showed up one day. And I read like everything you wrote, which I thought they were really awesome. And the thing that occurred to me right away and was her approach to saying, well, this is ridiculous that people are arguing about charging a customer for their delivery fee. You know, we started out, we opened up, you've been open, what, about a year now?
Yeah, just over a year.
And we'll ask you why you didn't just pile your money up and burn it, which is what I typically tell people who are new to the restaurant business instead of starting a restaurant. But so anyways, her take was immediate, like, look, I'm going to charge for it. Of course, we're not going to lose money on it, which, you would think that most people would take that approach. So we'll ask her about that. Bill, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm Bill Sommer. I'm the vice president for lifestyle communities. We operate in 4 different states, 10 locations. We're north of about 500 employees these days. I've been with lifestyle about 13 years, I think 12. And I think I met Andy in my former career. I was there, which where I tell people I sharpened my teeth at, we had a local barbecue restaurant group called Hoggies. And I was there for about 12 years as well. So those are 2 stops on my restaurant chain tour.
So my brief story about Bill that I always tell everyone, Bill, you're out of all the restaurant operators I've ever met, and I say this with all sincerity, you're probably one of the best like hands-on operators I've ever met. I was always impressed with the way you dealt with just the busy restaurants that you had. Some of the first restaurants that we did together were very busy, ginormous buildings. We actually built a ridiculous barn by hand, which was insane. But we did that, and Bill ran them, and he did an amazing job. And you're kind of playing yourself short on what you're doing now. You actually created that brand out of a bar, and you kind of told me the story, and I watched what you did. It was a residential community that had a bar in their community center, and Bill turned it into what was actually a restaurant chain out of what they were just doing. What you just had a couple of bar flies hanging out at night, getting drunk and fighting with each other is what you told me at the time. And, falling in the swimming pool or whatever they were doing. But you turned it into a giant fast casual chain, which is awesome. So that's my Bill story. So Earl, I don't know you nearly as well, but you have your reputation is pretty amazing. You're a guy who knows an awful lot about this space.
Yeah. So, I'm. Thanks for having me, Andy. I'm really a restaurant operator, and in the mid '90s, bought a struggling deli that was really going out of business, and started to fix the deli by just going to the basics, going through the business. But what happened to me at the deli was it became obvious that catering was a real opportunity for us in those days, and we weren't doing much of it. And so we started down this journey of, just building out these programs out the back door. And that started to get some traction. And then, we started to grow and started to fix the deli. And there was a web developer upstairs in my building, Andy, in the mid '90s that was doing web-based animation. And we registered our domain, tonysdeli.com, not really knowing why. I don't know how old everybody is on the call, but in those days, it was like static web pages. That was it. You had tonysdeli.com. You didn't know what to do with it, but you'd published a menu, or something. And so we started to work on our catering business. We rented some web space and just started building and coding around the solution for our workflow for catering. And anyways, long story short, did that for about 5 years. And by that time, Tony's had been totally turned around. Catering was $1.1 million. Retail was $1.2 million. It was a small little deli that was generating $1 million of cash flow. And it had this very clunky web-based solution that I was running half my business through. And so then 9/11 happened. Funny, we're doing this on 9/11's anniversary, right? And 9/11 happened, and catering just dropped off for the operators in the room. I'm sure you're experiencing that now as well, right? Which is like this, the corporate business just got turned off, and catering got hammered. And so I started to show people in the industry the tech, and then I ended up in the tech business. I started to license the technology to other food service operators. And anyways, long journey, about 20 plus years, and licensed that tech to more than 10,000 restaurants, and built a school that was called the Catering Institute, because that was really the key behind the success for off-premise and catering, especially, was the business strategy itself. It wasn't about the tech. It was all this other stuff. And so I ended up in catering. I ended up in takeout and delivery, and basically spent 2 decades in that space innovating for the food service space, and then sold the company last year to Easy Cater about 18 months ago. And then since then, I've been, trying to think about what's next, really doing some investments. I keep surfacing up back in food service for more tech, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you're certainly good at it. You're also being modest. But what most people would say about you, I believe, is that you taught most of the chain restaurant world how to cater when they didn't really understand how to go about that kind of business. You came in and told people how to do it, and then provided the software as well as the training to do it. And I don't know. I imagine there's tens of millions of dollars of transactions that are happening right now because of the information that you shared, especially now while it's the catering business is in effect dead at the moment for the most part. That knowledge of off premise, I'm sure, has saved people's butts.
Well, it's the convergence. It's we're going to get into that conversation, I know, but it's really what do you do next is the question, right?
Yeah.
Operators. So I look forward to hearing from Joel and Bill as well.
Awesome. Well, let's just talk about delivery for a little bit then. Joel, start out telling me how you approach delivery from kind of a new person's perspective, and what did you do, and how's it worked, and what are problems?
For sure. So I think that one of the things that probably put me in a bit of a unique position to tackle the delivery thing from day one a little bit differently is there was no baggage, no legacy systems. Like, we opened a restaurant a year ago, there was no question that we weren't going to be doing delivery. So we built it, or we designed it around that from the get-go. I personally am a massive consumer of Uber Eats and Skip and whoever we have here. So I was intimately kind of understood what the consumer side of things look like. So I think that's one thing that a lot of restaurant operators are missing, is that maybe they're not used to ordering Uber Eats themselves. So I knew all the challenges. I knew what I liked about it as a consumer, where restaurants fell flat. I knew that at the end of the day, the number one thing for me was the convenience, more than the price. It was like, I just wanted my favorite spots. I wanted them all on Uber Eats, and I wanted them all to deliver to my house, so I didn't, so I could keep working at my laptop and get my favorite food brought to me. So to me, it became more about like, how do I enable that for our consumers now that I had a restaurant and I had customers. And the overwhelming thing that we got, we didn't turn it on right away just because we were trying to open and figure out how to run a restaurant first. And we were so busy those first few weeks, we couldn't even consider an extra channel. Then when we finally got things under control, we're like, okay, how do we, actually, we hadn't even gotten to that yet, and people were already asking, get this on Uber Eats. I need this. They'd come to the restaurant, they loved it, and now they're like, I want this at my desk every day. So they kind of demanded it, and we're like, yeah, we're doing it. We'll get there. And since I come from a business background, not a food background at all, so I always look more at the numbers, and I was just like, well, okay, simple basic math. Like this wasn't me being a genius here. I was just like, well, they take 30%. From what I've heard, this industry doesn't have 30%. So yeah, okay, that's not going to work. The only way this makes any sense is if I increase the price. So that's what I'm going to do and see what happens. And if the customer's angry at me or not willing to pay, then I'll know we don't have a business proposition here. Like super black and white, just like that's the price it's got to be. And if they're not willing to pay that price, then you don't have a business. I'm not going to bleed money for this. Like, why would I? So it was really that straightforward. And we put it out there and people were buying. And we're like, okay, I guess they'll pay for it. And it's kind of trial by fire. But at the end of the day, that's the only way to test whether you have a value proposition, really, is what price the market will bear. And since day one that we've been on Uber, it's just been like an exponential curve. And we now do over 50% of our sales just on Uber Eats.
Wow.
So
that's a pretty typical story. Go ahead, Earl.
Just to riff off that, Joel, just to give you some, I want to give you some insights on some
Please.
stuff that I've learned about that. So first of all, I would encourage you to differentiate your product between your channels.
Mm-hmm.
And so, although your customers are saying, I really want that on my desk, what they're really saying is they just want something from you on their desk. And that's a real opportunity to innovate a new product, because what's happening basically on the marketplace business, which is a channel, we're just getting started as an industry. So Uber Eats is one channel, Skip the Dishes is another. I mean, it's all the same channel, different suppliers, right? But we're at the beginning of that process, because what's coming is all the digital channels are opening. And so, for example, Walmart, they're playing with some tests in the restaurant business now, okay? Because they've got a ton of internet traffic, so they're just referring people off, and they're all becoming marketplaces. And so what's interesting about this is there's some, I'm going to find you some data on this, but the differentiation between channels is the key, because what happens is, because you're in the wholesale business, which is what you are, your margins are slimmer, even with your price increases. I don't know how big they are, but you're really lining the pockets of Uber Eats, because you raise your price, they're getting a percentage of the top line. Their take is going up as well, right? That's the whole thing. So it's good for them too. But there's a point where the price sensitivity between what you're offering in store and what you're offering through your marketplace, you have to play with. And so another way to facilitate price increases is to play with your portions. You could come up with a totally new product that you don't have in store and just offer it through the Uber Eats channel only.
Earl, I have a question for you about that. So her concept, like a lot of smart ones, do a very small thing, a small amount of things well, right?
Great.
So
Yeah.
the do less, better format, when someone, that's what our business model is. They do a small menu, it's awesome. They can do better quality because they're spending less time and all the things that go into doing that. How do you then relate that to what you were just saying about offering different opportunities?
Yeah, go even slimmer, get even smaller on those channels. And so if you already have a very slim menu, in your case, sandwich salad or rice bowl, you've got, pick your protein, pick your sauce, pick your toppings. If you could create something that's differentiated, maybe within the same flavor profile, and then offer that on the channel, only on that channel, and offer one or two of them, very few of them, and get the price point where you want it, get the portion size where you want it. So even after the commissions, you've got nice, healthy margins. Then what will happen technically is Uber Eats or Skip the Dishes should drive more volume of that one single product or product line, if you will, and it'll drive your volume up.
So our volume is insanely high right now. So it's about how, rather than adding things, it's about how can we make more of these things efficiently. So our focus is efficiency gains. And that's where streamlined line basically is what we're focused on, is
good.
Um,
I want to give you the other side of it though, which is what's coming next, because what's happening in the marketplace space is they're entering into the food business.
Mhm.
So it's not going to take them long to figure out what's going on with you. And you end up with a kitchen up the street that's owned by Uber Eats that's doing German donors.
and that's where quality and branding come into play.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen it. Like DoorDash is doing it. I've got some customers that are running into that now. So
I want to talk about that piece here in a bit. If you could hold off on that one, or we can talk about kind of what's happening. But before we get too far out of that, Bill, tell us a little bit about what your experience has been, where you guys started with delivery and where you are now.
Well, first, I mean, Joel, congratulations. Those are great numbers to hear. Great story. I root for all operators in the space, and I agree with Earl on some of those comments. I do. Before we get back, I do want to add, which we're working with our POS system, is there's a way that we can now aggregate these orders, and we can become the quarterback, and we can actually we can cut off Uber Eats and all these other channels, markets, because we are. I'll explain it when we get into it. But what we're going after is that we can actually contact the drivers through our own stuff, and it's coming through our platform, and we can negotiate with them on the back channel, which I'll explain. It's kind of an initiative we're working with some restaurant operators here, because the way Uber Eats and all those are designed, if it's through you, you can negotiate a different price. If you have an ability to have say a web page or a platform, it's less of a percentage versus their platform. So there's some other things we're working on the technology side that I think they're going to help restaurants out. So we'll bring that back. For us, we got lucky. We were working on an app, an internal app that we put a major investment in capital dollars in. We just launched in January the ability to. We didn't like the margins either. So, and we really, our competitive advantage is just work within the neighborhood and the communities that we create. We have constant, occupancy is around 95 to 96% in all of our properties. We run about 18 properties. So we just figured, hey, let's just deliver it ourselves. So we actually did our own delivery service through our app, and we created that.
Bill, are you doing that just within the residential community now? And the other question with that is, just so people understand, your residential community is a good solid base, but that's not nearly your entire. I don't know what your percentage is of your guests that are actually residents.
Yeah, so we started out just doing to our resident base as a competitive advantage just for our apartment business, right? So we don't charge delivery fees. So and our residents don't pay for those, and we don't need to charge them delivery fees because we get the sales from them. I was telling you, we'll bring over a couple of bottles of Miller Lite, or we'll bring over some other offering, just as a convenience factor, because it's just about getting enough orders in the door for us that day. So we did, with the pandemic, expand that, Andy, to a mile around our properties that we'll deliver.
So you're actually getting outside a little bit.
We are. It's not my favorite thing.
You're getting in a car to do that?
Yeah, we're getting in a car. It's not my favorite thing to do, but we're doing it right now just so we can impact some of the. In Ohio, we have that 10 o'clock mandate that shuts us down. So we lost 5 hours. We had lost 5 hours of operating. So we had to do something, to try to level that out. So we kind of expanded the delivery range. And we've been doing that. I mean, I think for us, we deliver about, we've seen a 15% just uptick in delivery. And we're flat on last year's sales as a whole, as a collective. So it's pretty significant for us. It was the market was always there. And then we added Uber Eats and we added DoorDash. So, we're operating off 3 different channels right now. And it just varies which one's more successful than the other one. Nashville's, it's more Uber Eats than DoorDash and so forth. But, for us, we really wanted to have that personal experience of delivering to our neighbors. And that's why we created that. So, and it's, like I said, we're about 1.5 to 1 on the other channels right now from what we're seeing, if that makes any sense. So from third-party delivery, we're just upticking them a little bit from outside on the number, on the number.
How does that compare with what you're hearing, Earl?
Well, everybody seems to be getting an uptick in delivery. There's no question, but it's just so hard. It's just so hard. I mean, I'm not running into a ton of people that are having Joel's experience, but I think to maybe Joel, to your point, you've already got a pared down menu, and you designed for this from the beginning, right? So, um, um, I think some independents are having an easier time. Certainly, the chain business is having a difficult time, unless you're wing zone or you're really in the fast food is doing well. Drive-throughs are busy. Sad state of affairs, really, isn't it? Fast food, but probably that's a combination of convenience and price point and all that stuff. But in general, the delivery business it's just a mixed bag of results all over the place. Um, the differentiation in channels, the people that have been investing deep into that already are having success. So like the Paneras are doing okay. Jason's Deli is bouncing back. They're running their fundraising programs. They're doing all that kind of stuff. Um, but I think the shakeout of delivery. It's really like the challenge with this whole delivery space is that the companies that have been driving this are tech companies who have done an incredible amount of innovation. And really what happened was they disrupted the consumer. They put a wedge between consumers and the brands themselves. And that happened because the industry itself was very fragmented with a lot of small operators. But for the most part, the industry was neglectful and very slow in investing in tech. Right. And so you end up with a situation where restaurants were on their heels. And then in general, restaurants didn't do a good job in answering their phones. And they didn't want to do delivery, because it was too much work. And so the storm that was created was you had tech companies that came in with these order management platforms as aggregators. And then they put services around it. So they answered the phones and they started doing deliveries. And guess what? They're going to start doing kitchens.
Yeah, which you mentioned earlier, and Joel, you may know this, or Bill, I don't know if you do or not. That is happening really fast now. I mean, there's a bunch of these tech companies. They have so much cash that they're burning through it. None of these delivery companies are making money. You probably have all heard that they're burning. The burn rate is incredible. I read an article recently. The burn rate was astronomical. But the investment dollars are still there. So while the delivery companies are not making any money, they're starting to figure out, hey, I don't need Joel's Donner Shop or Bill's Goat anymore. If I can provide the same, I can steal your thing.
So, and that's where so when people say they drive a wedge between you and your customer, I disagree with that. That's still our customer. They're ordering Wolf Down. They're just, Uber Eats is just the enabler.
Do you have the data? Do you have the data?
Well, I think 116 orders in 1 year says that they're going to Wolf Down.
I guess what I'm saying is
yeah,
sorry, Joel, don't interrupt.
I think that's so yes, if you're just going to be another non-differentiated burger shop or the next pizza joint, 100% that's much higher risk if you don't differentiate and have a loyal following. That's something that we were very cognizant of. Like, we have built a very loyal fan base. Our secret sauce, people are like, it's crack. I don't know what you guys put it like. So of course, just like any other restaurant, you have to build that loyalty to you.
Trust.
So there's that on one end. And then so I'll preface all of this to say that I'm biased because I actually come from the tech side. It's funny, actually, Earl, when you were talking about building the software platform for catering, my fiance is actually one of the co-founders of Shopify. So he has the exact same story, that they wanted to build a snowboard shop for themselves, and then they realized no one had the software. So I get that world more than actually probably restaurants. This is just something I've jumped into because I like the new challenge. But so that's the lens I come from. And my counterpoint to that, and actually, again, I will bias this by saying this is very much applies to me being fast casual versus a dine-in. And I think those are very different beasts. So it works better for fast casual. For us, Uber Eats is the dominant player in Ottawa. So they have done delivery because if you look at it as an on-demand thing, it works better at scale. So no one can do it better than them here, because no one can have 15 drivers to my door in 10 seconds faster than Uber Eats can. And when we get a rush, when it's, between 6 and 7, I need 30 drivers there exactly when I have the food ready. That's, no one else can do that. I can't do that. I don't have 30 people just waiting around. So the on-demand nature of it, that is where they excel, and that's where the volume and the mass of drivers that they have is it is the best system. We often, but on the side of that, we often deliver one sandwich, which we increase by $2. So when you're doing full family meals delivery, where it's like $100 order or something, it's a different scale. It's a different, then you can say, oh yeah, it would be much more efficient for me to pay a $5 delivery to the driver. For us to be able to give a sandwich for an extra $2, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, no, it's interesting, but what's really important is framing the conversation.
mm-hmm.
And it's great to talk to you, Joelle, because you have a specific experience, which has been positive, right? And I think, and it's great because the industry needs those stories, but it's really important to separate out the marketplace
mm-hmm.
from the logistics. Because what I'm hearing from you is you love the logistics solution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what I would say to you is there's a gazillion companies out there that can give you 30 drivers on demand today that are straight logistics companies. You can charge for the delivery. You can pass the cost to the consumer, and it's a zero cost to you.
Okay, but then there's the marketplace. So my consumer and me,
yeah,
only I just like to look on Uber Eats because it's all my places are there and they have the audience. So they also bring us 100 new customers a week, and they make it easy for my I like to order on them because that's the one app I have on my phone and I don't want any more.
Great. So that's a channel. That's one channel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you have to maximize that channel. No mm-hmm. question about it. So you need to price accordingly. You need to segment and differentiate accordingly.
Yeah.
What I'm arguing, the argument or the debate, the great debate.
Yes.
Okay. Is how do you protect your direct to consumer business, and what piece of that business, like, should it equal Uber Eats? Should it be bigger than Uber Eats?
Mm-hmm.
And the general consensus is that your direct to consumer business, which is channel management, okay?
Yeah.
And you've got it. You've got online ordering. You've got Chow Now. You've got some direct to consumer stuff that you're doing. I saw through Chow Now.
Yeah.
But do you have the entire strategy where essentially you're pushing out your direct to consumer portal or entry point? You've got your app and your loyalty on here. You've got a call center that you're running in the back end, being able to answer phones. You've got salespeople that are knocking on doors and converting every one of those Uber Eats customers back to a direct to consumer transaction. That's
so my
the work.
point is being agnostic to that, is saying, you know what, if you don't want to pay an extra $2, come in and see us, order on channel, come pick it up. Cool. We love you. We have tons of regulars that do that. We
Right.
also have tons of regulars that we don't have the most convenient location to get to. There's no parking. It's on a busy street. They don't want to come to Centertown, or they're just busy people. And it's easier for you to get us through Uber Eats. 100%. That's awesome. We have Uber Eats regulars, we call them. We see their name come up every single day on the tablet. And the financial impact, we've basically adjusted it so it's essentially almost the same, because our prices are 20% higher. We give some of that to Uber Eats, but the efficiency of us, just the added volume going through our kitchen and what that does to our overhead costs, it comes out in the wash. So essentially my goal is to tell the customer, whatever way you want your wolf down, you do you. And it's my job as a business to just make sure it makes sense for us.
Totally, complete agreement. No disagreement. No disagreement. Just challenging the maximization of the direct consumer piece of it.
Right.
Which means, are you putting as much importance or effort or investment or all the stuff that you need to do to get your customers to buy directly, so that when they order from you and they have a catering order for $500, that they don't come through, a catering marketplace, that they come to you directly. And setting up for that infrastructure. So I think at one unit, you only have one or two.
We have one. We're opening a second one.
Okay, so at one unit, I get it, because it's one unit and you have a small team and you're running, it's when you try and duplicate those processes, right? That's when it starts to get more challenging, because the stuff that's working will scale up, but the stuff that's not working is also going to scale up. And as you grow, your problems, sort of multiply, and, it gets exponential. So I think that's the great debate, which is, yeah, Uber Eats can be a great partner, as DoorDash can be. But what does that program look like? What is the development of it? If it's just logistics you're looking for, and you can actually drive the business through your direct to consumer, you can get logistics companies. There's tons of them, tons. Like Deliver That is an example of a company out there doing that.
But it's not. It's the marketplace. It's the audience that they bring.
But the thing is, then how
it's what my consumers asking for. Customers want us on. They'd be like, we'd have an outrage on our hand if we went off Uber Eats.
Totally got it. So in that sense, the preparation for what is multi-channel management is the work that operators need to do right now, because currently it's Uber Eats is the flavor of the day. But that entire industry is about to consolidate, and it's still consolidating. So it's like, the European group, Deliveroo is coming in now, Just Eat is, Amazon's in the game, Google's coming in. And so you're going to have not just Uber Eats, but you're going to have potentially dozens of these marketplaces. And so the question is, when those orders come into your facilities, the efficiency, and you said earlier, you're driving efficiency in your production and your fulfillment process. I'm making an argument that the more of those marketplaces, the thinner you can go on your menu, the more volume you can drive to a production line of a simple menu, then you're going to be in a position to even potentially lower price, because your volumes are going to be so high that it won't matter. Now, the other piece of that is just, I would caution you, there will be a point in time when Uber Eats may turn the spigot off. Or they come to you and they say, Joelle, it's been a great ride, but you know what? We got German donors coming out of our kitchen now. We don't want to sell yours anymore.
Yeah, it's a valid, a legit threat to keep our eyes on, and something we think about. And the only way to battle it is with a stronger brand or
direct to consumer.
Yeah, brand trust. When you were saying
that, great conversation, though. I love it, and I love that I love that you're having some success. And I'm going to tap into you after on that, because people are asking, like, how.
Yeah, well, that's how. And something you touched on a minute ago, Joe, I want to touch on that, because I do, and the light at the tunnel there is brand trust, right? I mean, while we're going to get people, Walmart, whomever tries to replace, your food and do it themselves, what they don't have is your brand trust. So as a brand that can build trust and an actual relationship to their guests, so that they want to do business with you, is the strongest possible thing you can do to protect your fence around your place. People want to do business with you. They know who you are. They trust you as a company. Even further, if they believe that you're doing something better than just selling food, then they actually are going to go out of their way to do business with you. So I personally believe that that's another piece of that going forward is protecting your brand in that way. I want to ask Bill the same question, since he's got a number of other locations, about how that has evolved for you. You said you started out, are you doing just one? Who do you use for third-party delivery? And did you say you use two different providers?
Yeah, we have two different experiences. Uber Eats in Greater Nashville is really the flavor that everyone likes to use. So we use them. We don't like to use them because they're obviously the highest take. We negotiate down a little bit because we have scale, but we use them in Nashville. But DoorDash, believe it or not, here in Columbus, Ohio area, is the use of choice for the consumers in the marketplace here. So but we've worked both those deals, that if it's through our platform and then it needs delivered, the cut is half, right? So if it's through our website, but it's their delivery service because they choose it, it's a 10% cut versus the 20. I think we're at 22 gross on both Uber and DoorDash is where we got it.
Yeah.
But both of them, if you use, if you use their full services A to Z, they take their full cut. But they do allow you, if you have a platform, your own personal platform. So if they go through the GOAT app, so to speak, and they pick one of them, its own, we split it. So there's that we're kind of working with. And then, and like I told you, we're probably about, Andy, to finish that last time, we deliver about 80% of our residents. So they use us. So they already use us. They know us. They usually know. We have the advantage that, right, they know us as they come in. That you talk about brand trust. That's what it's about. We truly try to build communities. From a safety standpoint, who's delivering that food to you, right? So you might be the bartender you see tomorrow, or the person in the gym that might run, or maintenance person that might run that stuff over to you. So that's had, from a consumer confidence factor, that's actually, we've heard some of the feedback of why they choose our platform over the other two. And yes, I agree. You're going to have aggregators. And we actually got offered to be in one of those ghost kitchens. The Google startup out of that ghost kitchen. It's coming to Grandview, actually, Andy.
Really?
They asked us Google's getting behind it. So, and I said, no. I said, look, I hear you. That's the way to crack the nut on this stuff. But that's just not, I think this really, restaurants and operators really need to focus on that brand trust, and they need to be real about their proximity and just work on that. You can't dilute yourself out there. So, we stay really hyper local and hyper focused. And it's just, yes, we'll add that convenience factor for you. Yes, we pass on, we do the same thing, right? We make sure our margins are there. We raise our prices, we slim down menus, all those strategies that go with that. You have to be doing that. You have to offer what we call LTOs, limited time offerings, Earl. You do those things for those nights to keep those people happy and different. Because you definitely don't want to get stale, because everyone is coming into the space. I mean, it's, I also agree there will be a big consolidation on. That's what this fight's over, is who's going to win the delivery aggregating game. So there is going to be a consolidation, and then they're going to work on their efficiencies, right? Because they do have a problem. They drivers, stand 10 minutes waiting on an order or doing something. They're just not making enough. So there's a problem for them that they're trying to figure out. So that's definitely out there. I'm just giving the whole spiel about, we're just staying true to the brand and what we want to be, and try not, just got to keep working on that core business model, right? Got to keep just pounding it.
Yep, totally.
I'm curious about, as we talked about how the consolidation that's taking place, and obviously right now the flavors in town, you got to do what Joel's doing, you got to do what you're doing, and
Right.
feed whoever's working. As a long-term strategy, I really wonder about when that changes. How long can they burn through tens of millions of dollars a day in some cases? I mean, how long can that go on? I mean, the government does it, but I don't know if anybody else can. But you kind of wonder where that's going to go, and which made me wonder about two things. Earl, you were talking about consolidation, and then maybe and the marketplace idea. Would it actually be through Google? But Google wouldn't. While they could, and be in the food business, it seems kind of, I don't know. It seems like a silly attempt to go open up a bunch of food kitchens.
Well, yeah. Wait, this is way bigger than any of us.
I don't know if that's going to happen.
Just today, Ghost Kitchen, raising 25 million there, 50 million. I mean, just it's beyond crazy. And that so you ask, how long is that going to go on for? It's going to go on until there's some clear winners.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, the finance community is, they're going to double down on some of this stuff, right? Like, how can DoorDash have a $14 billion valuation? How is that even possible?
I don't understand any of that.
It's like,
I mean, the thing to remember is they are working on their efficiency, and they do have some aces up their sleeve. Like we just see the losses, but I mean, they're already getting more efficient. I don't know if you've noticed, but Uber Eats drivers are picking up sometimes 2 orders from us. They can go to us and then to the other restaurant next door. So they are driving efficiency. They're spending a ton on marketing right now. They don't have to keep doing that. All those $0 delivery fees. They're willingly and very knowingly spending that cash, and they have a plan to get it more efficient. So
They do.
the idea though is that all those plans work better at scale. Volume, economies of scale, volume is the game. So they're going somewhere with it. I'm not worried that they're just like going right off a bridge. They know what they're doing. It's
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But I think there's a lot of they definitely understand, like at the top level. I mean, SoftBank is betting on all these horses. This is like they're not all going to make it. Some are just not going to make
for sure.
it. So
Some will get eaten.
and they're gonna it's going to be a bloodbath in the process. And so you take great companies. SolarEdge is a great company. It's generating cash. It's in the solar business. The stock's been amazing. The company is generating tens of millions and that company's entire cap is 10 billion. I mean, it's not possible that DoorDash can have a $14 billion valuation as a private. It's not doable. It isn't. I don't care. Like it's I don't know what's Grubhub, 6. I mean, how is it? It's not possible. So there are billions of dollars that are sort of being injected here as it inflates value because it has to.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's over. And in the meantime, it's all being subsidized, right? So operators, for the most part, are not making money on these channels. Maybe you are, but you're an anomaly. And they're not, and the tech companies are not making money. So the consumers are not paying the real cost of convenience. They're not.
Right.
And that's just a matter of time. So if they have to rationalize, so if you have to rationalize, and these Uber Eats has to rationalize, guess what? That sandwich you used to sell it for $9, which you now sell through Uber for $12. I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be $20. And at some point the consumers are going to go, no, I'm not doing that. And so we don't know where that threshold is, right? So the cost of convenience is being subsidized, and as it has been for more than a decade now. So we'll see. Maybe there will be a low-cost provider at some point that just has so much automation and efficiency that it'll work. But it could be another decade.
I mean, Uber just wants to cut off the drivers and have automated cars. Maybe that'll be the one.
That's ultimately what's happening. But I think, but just to Andy asked the question, how long can they go? I think, Andy, they can go for a long time. There's so much capital on the sidelines. It's just, people want to park their money.
I'm always amazed that companies that'll flush money for incredible periods of time. In our business, there are so many restaurant companies that are teetering, on bankruptcy, and then a little bit of a hiccup, and they all of a sudden find they have no cash and no ability to maintain any operations, but yet someone will buy them for a stupid amount of money, and then the company's hamstrung to try to operate itself.
I mean, that's for us and for our industry to fix. I think that's a big lesson with COVID, is that we can't keep surviving on such dire straits. And I'm new to this industry, so I don't want to speak out of line or anything, but I think that it's sad for me to have seen what happened. I came into this industry, I had all these peers, and I looked up to them, and they've just been destroyed by this. And I'm like, what do you mean you didn't have like any savings to get anywhere? Like, they're immediately decimated. Yeah. And that's because as an industry as a whole, we've accepted margins being too low for too long, which is, raced to the bottom. So we kind of also did that to ourselves, and we are the ones who set those the customer expectations of what food should cost. It's bullshit. So when someone comes into my shop and they say that's an expensive sandwich, I say, it's fucking good. You don't want it? Go. Like, I don't care. And that's why I'm ruthless. We don't discount. We don't do any promos. We don't have a loyalty. There's no like 10 sandwiches, you get one. You got 10, you like it, you're going to come back for the 11th. No bullshit, no games. It costs what it costs. And that's I mean, it's worked. But I think there's too much, people are like, it comes from the goodness of their heart. They love feeding people. They love food. But you got to be more ruthless about your business. You got to take care of it.
I think part of it, Joelle, also for you is, you know, being Canadian and being in Ottawa, you know, the competition is a lot less. I'll just say that.
In the donor market, for sure.
Yeah, I think in general, I spent a lot, you know, most of my career in the U.S. and a lot in Canada,
Mhm.
and just in defense of, you know, U.S. restaurants. I mean, there's so many that you know, price is an issue. You know, can be.
Saturated for sure. But then you have to up the differentiating.
Yeah,
And that's
totally.
like Ottawa's a shawarma town. I would never open another shawarma shop in here. We had to do something different.
And you did, yeah, totally. You see that. But on Uber Eats, you're $14 a sandwich.
Yeah. And they pay it by the thousands. They love it. Hey, you want your donor? That's what it costs.
But we've seen that from a price sensitivity standpoint. The folks ordering Uber, they're paying for the convenience. We're unapologetic about pricing that as well. We started that in our margins, and it's amazing, even in my household, that somebody will pay for Chipotle, not driving. They'll pay the extra $10 not to get off the couch. So, I mean, there goes allowance. We got to bring that down a little bit. But, the point about it is that I think I was shocked about the whole experience of all this, Andy, is though we were nervous to take that pass along and all that kind of stuff. And yet that is not any one of all the transactions we have a week never brought up.
I mean, there's a lot of takeaways from this, and we only have like 2 minutes, so I know you guys got to go. But I think that is probably the best takeaway. What you just said, and to add to what Joelle was saying, is it seems obvious that people want convenience. Convenience has been the driving force in our industry for a long time. It was no different. COVID hasn't changed that at all. It's just, hey, you need to be convenient to do business with. You need to charge for it if that's what it takes. And of course, if you don't, you have to make money on a transaction, or it doesn't go anywhere. So I mean, I think no matter what happens, that's where it's going to go. And looking at new channels that are coming out, really concentrate on every one of those channels and make sure that you have a strategy. So whatever's happening in each individual, have a dedicated strategy to build every component of those off-premise sales, whether it's through catering or delivery or and include your in-house delivery as well. It's all the same. Your kitchen is a machine, and you've got a number of different outlets for it.
And then the other thing, just to add that, Andy, the restaurant POS system are starting to fight back with that. So it's kind of led to the point that we're going to start telling Uber Eats and DoorDash what we're going to pay them, because we're going to put that order out to bid. So on cyberspace, and that's coming. We're working on it. I'm on a team that's doing that. So, they're not going to tell us what the margins are going to be anymore. So, there's drivers driving around, and they'll be able to, they might have 5 channels in their car, but we'll be able to talk to them directly instead of Uber or whatever. So it's like you get into a taxi cab and they got 3 different, sources on their car.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the industry is starting to fight back. I mean, there's a lot of POS providers that understand the margins are too thin. And to Earl's point, in the US, we're so competitive price, unfortunately, as much as I'd love to charge what I need to charge, there's market sensitivities to that. So that's a reality. There is a cap to us. So it's just something I want to leave the group too, is that, it's an interesting thing that's bubbled up in the pandemic, is POS companies figuring out how to help operators.
Yep. Awesome. Well, I know everybody's got to go. I know you guys have some hard stop times, so I really appreciate your all's time today. Thanks so much. Good to see you all. Bill, love you. Have missed you. Can't wait to get to Columbus. Joelle, awesome to meet you in person. Earl, thanks so much.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you all. Nice meeting you. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.